I read a lot of books. And sometimes I'm reading a book like this one, good book, and I'll get to a part like this where it says, in fact, the phenomenon of functional differences between the hemispheres goes a long way down the tree of philosophy. Biohemispheric structure must have offered possibilities that were adapted lateralization of birds and animals. And I'm like, I wonder if that's right. And also, what did he just say? What did he just say? So to help me with this, I built this little app called Hermes. Basically, if I'm reading a book and I have any kind of question about it, I just take a picture of it and send it to Hermes, and Hermes will restate whatever's in the book in plain terms, and then it'll tell me things I might want to know about it, like whether the science is up to date, or what other perspectives I might be missing are, or what the underlying themes might be that I might have missed. It really makes the experience of reading challenging books feel much richer, because I feel like I get so much more out of what I'm reading. It turns into this like intellectual companion. And the coolest part about this is I built Hermes myself, and I did it in less than an hour with Cursor and OpenAI's new model O1. And I just can't tell you how incredible that is, because even like 2 or 3 years ago, this would have been completely impossible. Literally teams of engineers working together for years would not have been able to do what I just did in an hour myself. For example, the OCR technology was just really not good enough to take any random picture and turn it into readable text. And then the natural language processing just like was definitely not good enough to get me interesting things from the stuff I was reading. So what was previously completely impossible is now doable in 60 minutes, even if you don't really know how to code. And I want to show you how I did it. I actually recorded the process of building Hermes end to end. So you're going to watch me go through it. I'll narrate it, and you'll see exactly how something like this is possible with O1 and Cursor. All right, so here we are. We're in the OpenAI playground, and I'm just pasting in a prompt. And this prompt is something that I got from Jeffrey Litt, who I interviewed on my podcast. You can see the video elsewhere in this channel. And it's just telling it like, hey, you're a coding assistant. Here are some of the things I want this app to be built with. So React and TypeScript and Tailwind. And it actually turns out that I didn't even really need the React or Tailwind stuff because this is an SMS app, but I didn't think that through at the time. But basically it's telling it like, here's what I want the app to be. Here's the workflow. And then I just press run. And when I press run, then O1 is going to say, thinking. If you haven't checked out my video on O1 and how it works, you should check it out as a good introduction to this video. And it's just going to say, okay, please let me know the idea for the app. And so I'm just going to type in what I want the app to be. And I'm going to say, I want you to build a Twilio-based SMS service that analyzes text with AI. And Twilio is just it's a service that allows you to send and receive text messages programmatically. And I say, here's how I want it to work. I should be able to send a text message containing a picture or screenshot of a book I'm reading to a phone number. When the picture is received, it should use GPT-4 to transcribe the picture into text. Then it should send the transcription to O1 Preview and ask it to analyze. Then it should send back the analysis as a text to me. So some interesting things here. When it first gets the picture, it's going to use GPT-4 to do OCR and turn that picture into text. And we use GPT-4 for that because GPT-4 is multimodal. So it's actually very good at doing this image to text conversion. And then once we have the actual text, we're going to send it to O1 Preview. And O1 Preview it's the larger, more advanced version of OpenAI's new model O1. And I'm using O1 Preview for this because it does that thinking thing where it's doing a chain of thought to decide how to respond to a prompt. And I found that is actually better for text interpretation because it has some time to reflect before it sends back what it thinks. And you'll notice I'm using O1 Preview for the text interpretation, but for coding, so we're coding right now in the playground, I'm using O1 Mini. So O1 Mini is a smaller, faster version of O1 Preview. O1 Mini is actually a little bit better for programming, but it knows less about the world. I'm using O1 Mini for programming, and I'm using O1 Preview for text interpretation because in order to interpret text, you need to know a lot about the world. So that's why I'm doing that. And then it's going to ask me a bunch of questions about what I want the service to look like. So does it need to have a web interface? What is O1 Preview? As you probably know, these models are trained on the internet, so they only know about what's on the internet when they're trained. And obviously when O1 was trained, nothing was on the internet about it. So it asked me like, what is O1? How do I use it? And to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the OpenAI website and I'm going to find the documentation for O1 and I'm going to give O1 its own documentation so it knows how to call itself. And I'm going to give it an API key, which I won't show you, but I have. And then I'm going to tell it I don't need any user management. I don't really even need any storage or data management. And all of this stuff is going to just be stuff that you can do even if you don't know how to code. There's some of this stuff it's easier because I do know how to code, but it's really pretty good without any programming experience. I'm telling it where I wanted to host it, like on Railway, and I'm just saying, no, just do all the default stuff. It's asking me these questions just to make sure it gets things right, but mostly it's just getting things right without me doing much. All right, so here we are. We've actually gotten our first bit of code. I'm just going to read through the code it generated and make sure that it all looks like it passes the sniff test. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new directory in my code folder called Hermes. That's the name of the app, as we've talked about. And I'm just going to open up a new file in Cursor by doing cursor space dot, and that's going to open up the directory basically as a cursor project. And I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to check what O1 gave me. I'm going to copy and paste that into this new file called server.ts. This is going to be a TypeScript project. And we got a lot of red underlines, and the red underlines are telling me right now that certain things are either not installed or not currently defined. And I'm just going to go and install this stuff with npm install. I'm just going to list out the names. And if you don't understand what's going on, this is all stuff you could just ask O1. It'll tell you. Cursor will tell you what to do. O1 will tell you what to do. And you'll notice that there's a red underline underneath configuration in OpenAI API. And what I'm suspecting here is that O1 just got the documentation wrong and it just didn't quite write the call to OpenAI as it is currently in the current API. And so I'm just like fighting with it and going back and forth to try to get it right. I'm going to try Sonnet. Maybe Sonnet's better. And what I end up doing is I just go to the docs and look at the docs and just do it according to the way the docs look. And this ends up being wrong because I'm using the Python documentation. So I'm getting myself like a little bit messed up here because I'm doing this live. I'm trying to do it in under 60 minutes. And so I'm doing some dumb stuff. But like the important thing to know is you can do dumb stuff and still get this thing working really quick. So I just noticed that I was using the Python documentation as my model. So now I'm just gonna copy paste the API calls, and you can also do this with the AI. O1 should be good enough to do this, but I'm just being stupid here. And what I'm realizing here is that O1 did something stupid. It is trying to send the image that I texted it to Whisper. And Whisper is actually a speech to text model. It doesn't do image to text. And so I just caught that, and now I have to change it so that it's not. If you see that create transcription call, I don't want it to do that. I don't even think that's a real thing. I want to change it to send the image to GPT-4o, which is the model that can actually do image to text, and we'll see if it can do that. And I'm just going to look up the API call just to give it to O1 so it knows how to do that. Great, here's the API call. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And again, I'm making sure I'm in the right language. So I went from Python to Node, and I'm going to just redo that call because I'm just not confident that O1 actually knows how to call GPT-4o. And I'm just going to give it the documentation. And I'm just going to apply the changes that it gives me. Now we've got this create chat completion call, which is redlined and is totally wrong. And I'm going to give it the documentation again. So it's just like all this stuff it just got the exact format of the API call wrong. And I just have to give it the right doc so it knows what to do. And I'm going to check my tweets, obviously. And while I'm waiting for it to generate, I'm just going to install some of the libraries that I missed the first time. So I'm going to install TypeScript. I'm going to update my tsconfig. So all this stuff is, you don't even need to know what this does. Just do what the AI tells you to do. Here I'm putting in all my API keys for OpenAI and for Twilio. And I'm like, okay, how do I even get my API key from Twilio? Like, all the stuff that I have to do is like the dumb stuff. It's make sure that the API call is formatted, make sure that I have all my API keys, all that kind of stuff. But the actual programming, like, it's pretty much done for me. There's not that much to do. So now what I'm doing is I know that I'm going to have to use ngrok. Ngrok is this thing that will take your local server and make it available on the internet. So you can run a server on your computer, but you won't be able to access it through the internet. I need my local server to be accessible over the public internet because when Twilio gets a text message, it's going to forward that text message to my server, and I need it to have access to my server. So ngrok takes your local server and makes it available over the internet. So I'm going to install ngrok with Homebrew, and then I'm going to use ngrok to make the server I set up available so that Twilio can call it, so that when I text Twilio, my server will be able to receive that message. And now the server is up and running and it's accessible over the internet. Now all I need to do is tell Twilio, okay, when you get a text message, I want you to hit this server URL. So now what I'm noticing is that when I text the service, Twilio is finding that I'm getting a 404 error. So basically, Twilio is trying to access my server, but when it requests the route on my server, it doesn't work. And I need to figure out why that is. So now what I'm doing is I'm realizing that the route that we set up is a /SMS route, and that Twilio is actually trying to hit the root index route when it gets a text message. So I need to go update Twilio to actually hit the /SMS route. So you can see I added it in and I did the /SMS and I've hit save. And now we're going to try again. So I send a text message. I get that 200 OK. So that means that the text message is actually reaching my server. And then boom, I get a text back saying, please send me an image I want to analyze. So this is off screen, but then I just go take a picture of a book and I send it to the server, but I don't hear anything back. So I have to start investigating, like, why am I not hearing back from the server when I send it a picture? And I look at the logs, and there's a HTTP retrieval failure. So I noticed we're getting the picture of the book, but it was not able to get a response from the server. And that's when I start to suspect something. I start to suspect, okay, maybe the Twilio API is timing out because it takes a long time to transcribe the image and then get an analysis. And Twilio expects a response back really quickly. So I'm wondering if that's causing it to fail. So what I ask it to do is just add a bunch of logs so I can see if my suspicions might be right. So it generates a bunch of code to add logs. It all looks reasonable. So I press apply. And I just restart the server. I'm replacing the URL in ngrok, which I actually don't have to do. All right, Dan, come on. All right, we're saving the configuration. I'm going to send a new text message, and I'm going to see if it shows me what's going on. Boom. Text came in. We're sending the image to OpenAI for transcription. Ooh, and look at that. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful transcription. Now I want to see, okay, is it going to send me a analysis back from O1? And it does. Look, the analysis isn't good. It's bad, but it's there. It's there. So the problem is not with this chain of server calls. It's something to do with sending it back to Twilio. And what I start to suspect is that I'm right. So basically, I think, okay, Twilio is timing out. It's expecting a reply from me, and it's taking way too long for the server to reply. And so I want you to deal with that. I want you to deal with the timeout. So I'm going to ask that to Cursor, and Cursor and O1 are going to build a little mechanism so that it doesn't time out. So we send a reply back immediately to we send a reply back immediately to Twilio when we get it. And then later, when we get the analysis back, we send that directly to the phone number. So we separate the calls out to avoid the timeout issue. Okay, so now what I've realized is that all the analysis is working and it's getting sent back to my phone properly, but the analysis is just too long. So what I want Cursor and O1 to do is split it up because text messages only have a limited number of characters, so it needs to take the analysis, split it up into different messages, and send it one by one. So once I made that change, this is what the final app looked like. Basically, take a picture of a book, send it to Hermes, get a text back saying, hey, we're processing your image. And then here we go, a full and complete analysis of the passage with a little bit of a summary of what the passage said so I can understand it in case it's a little bit complicated. That was so fun. And it took me like, I don't know, 50 minutes to do it start to finish. And it's still pretty quick and dirty. I spent a little bit of time afterward cleaning up the prompt to make the analysis a little bit more succinct. And then I also built this little thing afterwards where after you send it a passage, it will proactively send you a few messages throughout the day, kind of riffing on that passage and introducing you to new quotes or ideas or authors that you might not have heard of that are related to the passage you sent it. So it's really becoming this cool, like, intellectual companion, and it's mine. Like, I just did that really quickly. Coding with AI is like this superpower. You can just make whatever's in your head quickly and easily in a way that was like never possible before. So if you're interested in learning how to do more of this, definitely listen to my podcast, AI and I. It's on this channel. Go check out Every. It's a daily newsletter about what comes next in tech. I write every Friday on a column called Chain of Thought. And make sure you hit like and subscribe because I'm going to be doing more of these videos soon.